We are on page 75, Book 1, Canto 5, The Yoga of the King. And this is the second canto about Ashwapati, Sri Aurobindo, the yoga of the spirit's freedom and greatness. And we're quite a ways down. We ended with the mystery of God's covenant with the night. And we'll begin with the line, "Once more was heard in the still cosmic mind." Well, that's a big phrase. What is the cosmic mind? And I could talk to you for 30 minutes on this one subject, but we'll keep it to just a few minutes. In the synthesis of yoga, Sri Aurobindo says to us, there is one cosmic mind, one cosmic life, one cosmic body. All the attempt of man to arrive at universal sympathy, universal love, and the understanding and knowledge of the inner soul of other existences is an attempt to beat thin, breach, and eventually break down by the power of the enlarging mind and heart the walls of ego and arrive nearer to a cosmic oneness. He answers 2 letters on yoga regarding the cosmic mind and the opening to the cosmic mind. He says one is aware of the cosmic mind and the mental forces that move there and how they work on one's mind and that of others. And one is able to deal with one's own mind with a greater knowledge and effective power. There are many other results, but this is the fundamental one. And it's so important to understand how the cosmic mind, we know we have these 3 degrees. We have the ignorance, and then we have the cosmic, and then we have the supramental. So the cosmic is vast. The cosmic mind is extremely vast. And he says the cosmic consciousness has many levels. The cosmic physical, the cosmic vital, the cosmic mind. And above the higher planes of cosmic mind, there is the intuition. And above that, the overmind. And still above that, the supermind, where the transcendental begins. In order to live in the intuition plane, not merely to receive intuitions, one has to live in the cosmic consciousness, because there the cosmic and individual run into each other, as it were, and the mental separation between them is already broken down. So nobody can reach there who is still in the separative ego. So we've done that, and we've read one line. Once more was heard in the still cosmic mind the Eternal's promise to his laboring force. And the Eternal, of course, is capitalized here, and force is also capitalized. So Sri Aurobindo says, each is the whole eternal concealed. Very strong statement. He means by that we are all divine. and we're only clouded by these veils that are in front of us. The eternal is our refuge. All the rest are false values, the ignorance and its mazes, a self-bewilderment of the soul in phenomenal nature. And since force is capitalized, we should hear a little about what force is actually. In a letter on yoga, he says, force is the essential Shakti. Energy is the working drive of the force, its active dynamism. Power is the capacity born of the force. Force is inherent in existence. Shiva and Kali, Brahman and Shakti are one, and not two who are separable. Force inherent in existence may be at rest or it may be in motion. But when it is at rest, it exists nonetheless and is not abolished, diminished, or in any way essentially altered. So all force, he says in his book, The Renaissance in India, is power or means of a secret spirit. The force that sustains the world is a conscious will, and nature is its machinery of executive power. So now that we've had two lines, we'll go again. Once more was heard in the still cosmic mind the Eternal's promise to his laboring force, inducing the world passion to begin, the cry of birth into mortality, and the opening verse of the tragedy of time. What poetry! But we have to look deeply at these lines, because what is this world passion? Well, very simply, it's us in the ignorance. Because when we descend from the heights and take a form, a human body, there is always ignorance. And there is always duality. So we, in our mind, understand good and bad, hot and cold, etc. So inducing the world passion to begin, the cry of birth into mortality. Well, namaste. This is so beautiful. We always used to hear the moment a child came out of the womb, it cried.
No, he meant you can take a book.
You can take a book, yeah. If you like a book, sure. I don't think the children cry so much anymore. I think these newer souls don't have to cry with a burst into the new world. The cry of birth into mortality and the opening verse of the tragedy of time. Why is it a tragedy of time? Because time here for us is limited. We don't see time as the vastness. We don't see space as the wideness. We compartmentalize them. And so that is the tragedy of time. But he says it's only the opening verse of the tragedy of time. Out of the depths, the world's buried secret rose. Well, what is this buried secret of the world? It is simply that the divine, in creating the world, has manifested in billions of souls. And the buried secret is that he wants to look into each soul, which is, of course, a part of him. And so it's a secret until all of us have become divine. Now we have a very interesting word here. It's a Russian word. He read the original ukaz kept back. Now, Sri Aurobindo writes, I have accented on the first syllable, as I have done often with other words like occult, divine. It is a Russian word, and foreign words in English tend often to get their original accent shifted as far back as possible. I have heard many do that with ukaz. So what is ukaz? It's a proclamation. It's a decree. It's an order. And the last line on this page, he read the original ukaz kept back in the locked archives of the Spirit's crypt. And we have to now go to the next page. So we have to see what Sri Aurobindo is going to tell us now, because this is extremely important. And saw the signature and fiery seal of wisdom on the dim power's hooded work. Another very complicated line. This fiery seal of wisdom is a signature, and it's a signature on this hooded work of the dim power. So when we break it into prose, we can understand it a little more easily. What is this dim power's hooded work? Well, Mother tells us that in the original creation, she sent down 4 emanations, all perfect, all powerful, all divine. But a few of them began to enjoy their power, and they turned into the opposite. Love became hate, etc. So this dim power's hooded work is to turn things around again. Now, Mother, in one of her talks, said that she confronted these, we call them the elder gods. And she said 2 of them agreed to be converted, and 2 said, no, I will enjoy my power. One of them was death, and the other one was falsehood. So we'll continue. Who builds in ignorance the steps of light. Every time Sri Aurobindo capitalizes a word, he means it's the essential meaning of the word. So let's look into this term, ignorance, because the dim power is working in ignorance to build the steps of light. In the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo says, ignorance is the absence of the divine eye of perception, which gives us the sight of the supramental truth. Supramental truth, very important. It is the non-perceiving principle in our consciousness, as opposed to the truth-perceiving conscious vision and knowledge. Ignorance means avidya, the separative consciousness and the egoistic mind and life that flow from it, and all that is natural to the separative consciousness and the egoistic mind and life. This ignorance is the result of a movement by which the cosmic intelligence separated itself from the light of the supermind, the divine gnosis, and lost the truth. Truth of being, truth of divine consciousness, truth of force and action, truth of ananda. As a result, instead of a world of integral truth and divine harmony created in the light of the divine gnosis, we have a world founded on the part truths of an inferior cosmic intelligence, in which all is half truth, half error. Well, we certainly can see that in the world today. There is really no firm truth or firm light at the moment. But it has been brought down by Sri Aurobindo and Mother, and they have termed it the supermind. And he says, light of the supermind. The supermind is where all of us are headed. Whether it takes one birth or 10 or 100 or 1,000 births, we are all going to reach the supermind. Why do I say that? Because if we are here in the ashram or Auroville at this time, it means we have received a call from the divine, each of us. We may want to deny it, our mind may not agree with it, but it is a fact. Sri Aurobindo says that those who have been called are guaranteed to reach the supermind. A sleeping deity opened deathless eyes. He saw the unshaped thought in soulless forms, new matter pregnant with spiritual sense. Mind, dare the study of the unknowable. Life, its gestation of the golden child. I have a comment of Sri Aurobindo about the golden child. He writes, I suppose the golden child is the truth soul which follows after the silver light of the spiritual. When it plunges into the black waters of the subconscious, it releases from it the spiritual light and the sevenfold streams of the divine energy, and, clearing itself of the stains of the subconscious, it prepares its flight towards the Supreme Divine, the Mother. In the light flooding thought's blank vacancy, interpreting the universe by soul signs, he read from within the text of the without. The riddle grew plain and lost its catch, obscure. Okay, we have to remember this is Sri Aurobindo talking under the pseudonym of Ashwapati. So he is giving us here his own spiritual experiences, which he has rarely done in any of his other works. He rarely uses the term I. Usually it's we or our. And now here he's saying, I suppose, I this. He read from within the text of the without. The riddle grew plain and lost its catch, its concealed, unexpected. And it's something that is worth seizing, capturing, especially after pursuit. A larger luster lit the mighty page. A purpose mingled with the whims of time. A meaning met the stumbling pace of chance. And fate revealed a chain of seeing will. We have to look at this capitalized word chance, because Sri Aurobindo tells us in his essays, Divine and Human, chance is not in this universe. The idea of illusion is itself an illusion. There was never illusion yet in the human mind that was not the concealing and disfigurement of a truth. And in that same essay, what we call chance is a play of the possibilities of the infinite. Wow. A meaning met the stumbling pace of chance, and fate revealed a chain of seeing will. Well, this is fate, capital F, karma. So we have to look into this very carefully. In a letter on yoga, he writes, the Indian explanation of fate is karma. We ourselves are our own fate through our actions. But the fate created by us binds us. For what we have sown, we must reap in this life or another. Still, we are creating our fate for the future, even while undergoing old fate from the past in the present. That gives a meaning to our will and action, and does not, as European critics wrongly believe, constitute a rigid and sterilizing fatalism. Very important line. But again, our will and action can often annul or modify even the past karma. It is only certain strong effects called utkata karma that are non-modifiable. I had talked with my friend Ranganath about this, and he says the mother can even reverse utkata karma, which is basically only two things that mother said would take 7 lives to overcome. The first is murder, and the second is suicide. But if one is totally given to the mother, even then, Ranganath says, she can overcome it. Here too, the achievement of the spiritual consciousness and life is supposed to annul or give the power to annul karma. For we enter into union with the divine will, cosmic or transcendent, which can annul what it had sanctioned for certain conditions. New create what it had created. The narrow, fixed lines disappear. There is a more plastic freedom and wideness. Neither karma nor astrology, therefore, points to a rigid and forever immutable fate. A conscious wideness filled the old dumb space. Now, all of you who are new should know that when Sri Aurobindo uses the word dumb, it is not in a pejorative sense. It is always silent or quiet. So, the old silent or quiet space. In the void, in this great void, what did he see? He saw throned the omniscience supreme. So he sees the Godhead, the Absolute. A will, a hope immense now seized his heart. And to discern the superhuman's form, he raised his eyes to unseen spiritual heights. This is only possible of the greatest yogi or the emerging avatar. He raised his eyes to unseen spiritual heights, aspiring to bring down a greater world. The glory he had glimpsed must be his home. A brighter, heavenlier sun must soon illume this dusk room with its dark internal stare. This dusk room is our body, and it has a dark internal stair, which we have to climb step by step by step through all the successive gradations of consciousness until we break out of the inconscient and enter into the true consciousness. This dusk room with its dark internal stair, the infant soul in its small nursery school, mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned, outgrow its early grammar of intellect, and its imitation of earth nature's art, its earthly dialect to God language change. In living symbols, study reality and learn the logic of the infinite. Well, there's a lot to go over here, so we'll take it slowly. Ashwapati, Sri Aurobindo has had this vision of the creator of the universe. He wants to bring down this greater world. All other yogas are satisfied with just reaching the divine. The earth is an illusion, or it's a useless field of war and hate. Not to Sri Aurobindo. To Sri Aurobindo, it is our responsibility to bring down the light, the power, the wisdom we receive onto the earth to change it. And that's where the integral yoga differs from all other yogas, Firstly, we have to understand that the creation of this world was through a perfect involution. And from that involution, evolution began. Now, involution is perfect. Nothing can change it, disturb it. But evolution, as we all know, is filled with errors, possibilities, difficulties, challenges. So, a brighter, heavenlier sun must soon illume, in other words, light up, this dusk room with its dark internal stare. The infant soul, in its small nursery school, mid objects meant for a lesson hardly learned, outgrow its early grammar of intellect and its imitation of earth nature's art, extraordinary, its earthly dialect to God language change. In living symbols, study reality and learn the logic of the infinite. So I have to share some things with you. Sri Aurobindo, of course, spent so many years in England studying all the poets of his time, the poets of earlier times, and he began writing epic poems in his early teens. We have Love and Death, an incredible epic. Ilion, another vast epic. But when he began Savitri, he did not continue with any other epics. He put everything into Savitri, which is why, as I told my Sunday night group, Mother said, Savitri is a mantra for the transformation of the world. Oh, incredible. A mantra for the transformation of the world. Now, Amal Kiran, whose legal name was K.D. Sethna, was a poet and a very great intellect. And he would, I would use the word pester Sri Aurobindo many times. Isn't this word, couldn't it be a little better? Couldn't this line be a little more beautiful? So here is a case of hardly versus barely. Sri Aurobindo writes to him, "You're barely enough instead of the finer and more suggestive hardly falls flat upon my ear. One cannot substitute one word for this context, and, repetition or not, it must remain unless a word not only juste but inevitable comes to replace it." On this point, I may add that in certain contexts, barely would be the right word. As for instance, there is barely enough food left for 2 or 3 meals, where hardly would be adequate but much less forceful. It is the other way about in this line. Letters on Savitri. In this kind of poetry, merely because it means intellectually the same thing, hardly is the more just in line. So we have to see that we are the infant soul in this small nursery school. And we are in the midst of objects meant for a lesson hardly learned. And we have to outgrow its early grammar of intellect and its imitation of earth nature's art. What can be more beautiful in earth nature than the Himalayas, than the vast ranges of Russia, of the beauty of America? So, in living symbols, no, it's earthly dialect to God language change. In living symbols, study reality. And he capitalizes reality. So we have to learn more of what he means by this word. In the Life Divine, he has 2 quotes, 2 statements. There is a reality, a truth of all existence, which is greater and more abiding than all its formations and manifestations. This reality is there within each thing and gives to each of its formations its power of being and value of being. An omnipresent reality is the truth of all life and existence, whether absolute or relative, whether corporeal or incorporeal, whether animate or inanimate, whether intelligent or unintelligent, and in all its infinitely varying and even constantly opposed self-expressions, from the contradictions nearest to our ordinary experience to those remotest antinomies which lose themselves on the verges of the ineffable. The reality is one and not a sum or concourse. From that, all variations begin. In that, all variations consist. To that, all variations return. Now, this is what reality is, and we have to begin to understand and learn the logic of the infinite. I have a few more minutes. The ideal must be nature's common truth. the body illumined with the indwelling God. The heart and mind feel one with all that is. And I'm just pausing here for a little bit because there's so much to share. Now, he says, the infinite. Even the words eternal and infinite are only symbolic expressions through which the mind feels without grasping some vague impression of this supreme. And Mother is now going to answer one of the children's questions. And she gives two answers. It's to a very young person. It is very simple, as you will see. The infinite is the inexhaustible storehouse of forces. The individual is a battery, a storage cell, which runs down after use. Consecration is the wire that connects the individual battery to the infinite reserve of forces. That word consecration is so important in our lives. It means to consecrate, to give everything we are to the highest we can conceive. Call him God, call him the divine, call him whatever you will. It is to that we owe our allegiance. Now here's number two, Mother gives the child. The infinite is the river that flows without cease. The individual is the little pond that dries up slowly in the sun. Consecration is the canal that connects the river to the pond and prevents the pond from drying up. The ideal must be nature's common truth. What is nature? He capitalizes nature. In the Life Divine, again, he says, all nature is simply the seer will, the knowledge force of the conscious being at work to evolve in force and form all the inevitable truth of the idea into which it has originally thrown itself. Now, that's a little complicated, but this seer will and this knowledge force of the conscious being is at work to evolve in us, in force and form, all the inevitable truth of the idea. And he capitalizes the word idea, which he also uses as real idea as a synonym for the supermind. Nature, because she is a power of spirit, is essentially qualitative in her action. One may almost say that nature is only the power of being, the power in being, and the development in action of the infinite qualities of the spirit. The body illumined with the indwelling God. And here's Sri Aurobindo's absolute statement. Each of our bodies must become illumined, not just holding or ignorantly allowing the darkness to work, but illumined with the indwelling God, brightly lit up. The heart and mind feel one with all that is. I have so many definitions, it takes a few moments. A conscious soul live in a conscious world. Now here's Ashwapati standing at the height of the universe. As through a mist, a sovereign peak is seen. The greatness of the eternal Spirit appeared. And I'll just end with a few more lines. Exiled in a fragmented universe, amid half semblances of diviner things. These now could serve no more his regal turn. The immortal's pride refused the doom to live, a miser of the scanty bargain made between our littleness and bounded hopes and the compassionate infinitudes.